Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So welcome to our third talk in our series on Hatthālavaka of Ālavak. So for the first two talks we talked about his life and we talked about his qualities. And so just a reminder, Hatthālavaka was the son of the Prince of Ālavak. He was handed over to him by the king of Ālavak, to the Buddha, as a young child. And when he grew up, he became an anagami, having attained the third stage of awakening. He also became one of the foremost amongst the male lay disciples of the Buddha, and he was foremost in this ability of maintaining an assembly based on these four Sanghahavatu, which we discussed in the last talk. And so the four Sanghahavatu we have are dana, or generosity, piyavacha, kind words, attacharya, which is beneficial conduct, and samanatta. Samanatta means fairness or equal treatment of others. Now, this talk, we're going to look a little bit at the Ālavakasuttaṁ. And Ālavakasuttaṁ doesn't really mention Hatthālavaka of Ālavak, but it's the commentary to the sutta that tells the story. And since we already went through the story in another talk, we won't go through it all again. The commentary to the sutta is quite ponderous. It's extremely detailed. It has quite a long backstory, and also the commentary on the meaning of the words is fairly long. So we're going to look at the sutta just from the perspective of somebody who has a daily chanting practice. So this is mostly for people who are going through this Chattubbanavara Pāli or some other chanting book that would contain Ālavakasuttaṁ, which is a common protective chant in, I would say, all of the Buddhist countries, but especially this book of chants is popular in Sri Lanka. Now, because of not everybody is familiar with Pāli, and also because of the length of the sutta, what I think we'll do is divide it into three parts. So we have the first part in prose, which sets the scene, and then we have the verses, and then we have the conclusion, where Ālavaka takes refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So what I'll do is summarize the first part and then chant it in Pāli. And for the second part, then we'll go through the verses in a little more detail. And again, for the third part, we'll summarize, then chant in Pāli. So as we said, in the backstory, the king of Ālavak has been sending a child every day to be sacrificed to the Yaka, Ālavaka. And so on that day, the Buddha has seen that this child has the potential to attain this anagami in the future, and Ālavaka has the potential to be converted to be a disciple of the Buddha. So he goes to Ālavaka's home, and he squats there. He sits there, and he gives a Dhamma talk to Ālavaka's wives there, and the wives are very happy. They're saying sadhu, and Ālavaka hears word of this at the Yaka meeting in the Himalayas, and he flies back and he confronts the Buddha, and they have a terrific battle. But Ālavaka's powers are unable to overcome the Buddha, and so at that point the sutta starts with this Ālavaka telling the Buddha to come out and get in 3 times, and the 4th time the Buddha says, I won't anymore. You can do what you want. So Ālavaka says he will ask him some questions, and if he can't answer the questions, he will do all kinds of horrible things to the Buddha. So we'll put a link to the sutta with translation by Bhante Ānandajoti in the notes to the talk. So I won't read the English translation. I'll just chant that part. You can follow along if you like. Evaṁ me sutang ekang samayam bhagava ālaviyam viharati ālavakasuttaṁ attako ālavako yako yena bhagavate upasamkamidva bhagavantaṁ etadavoca nikkama samanati sadhavasoti bhagava nikkami pavisa samanati sadhavasoti bhagava pavisi tatiyam-piko ālavako yako bhagavantaṁ etadavoca nikkama samanati sadhavasoti bhagava nikkami pavisa samanati sadhavasoti bhagava pavisi tatiyam-piko ālavako yako bhagavantaṁ etadavoca nikkama samanati sadhavasoti bhagava nikkami pavisa samanati sadhavasoti bhagava pavisi tatuttam-piko ālavako yako bhagavantaṁ etadavoca nikkama samanati nakvahang avaso nikkamisami yang te karaniyang tang karohiti panhang tang samanapuccisami tache na vyakarisasi chittang vate kipissami hariyang vate palisami pade suvagahedva paragangaya kipissami ti nekvahang avaso nikkamisami yang te karaniyang tang karohiti. Panhang tang samana nakvahang tang avasupasami sadevake loke samarake sambramake sasamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manusaya yo me chittam va kipeya adiyam va paleya pade savagahid va paragangaya kipeya apichitvang avasupacha yadda kankasiti Attako Ālavako yako bhagavantaṁ gathaya ajjabhasi. So that sets the scene. So Ālavaka Yaka is going to ask the Buddha some questions. So according to the story, then the parents of Ālavaka, this is from the Sutta Nipata commentary, Ālavaka has received these questions from his parents. And they received them during the time of Kassapa Sambuddha, long in the past, and they had passed it down, but Ālavaka had forgotten the answers, so that's according to the commentary. So these questions will do the English together with the Pāli, so I'll read the Pāli then English. King Sunda Vitang Bodhisattva Setang King Su Sichinno Sukhamavahati King Su Have Sadutaram Rasanam Katang Jiving Jivitamahu Setanti. What is the greatest wealth for a person here? What, when accomplished, brings about happiness? What, for sure, is the sweetest of tastes? Living what life do they say is the greatest? So that's the question. So we hear what the Buddha has to say. Sadhinda vitang bodhisattva setang dhammo suchinno sukhamavahati satchang have sadutarang rasanam Panya jiving jitamahu settanti. Confidence is a person's greatest wealth here. So we're following Bhante Ānandajoti's translation. So Sadidda, Saddha means faith, and Idda is here. So in Pāli, the words are, because of Sandhi, the words have been combined here. So faith here is the greatest wealth. Or here they're translating as confidence. The Dhamma, when accomplished, brings about happiness. Truth, for sure, is the sweetest of tastes, and living a wise life, they say, is the greatest. So the commentary actually gives some explanation of each of these, but you can see you can understand all of these. I mean that if you have these qualities, you'll be practicing the Dhamma, you'll be getting the benefits of your good actions. Just to very briefly sum it up, the next stanza actually has a bit of a more technical meaning according to the commentary. So actually, before we read it, I'll explain a little bit. So it asks about how one crosses the sea, this Oga. Over the flood, Oga. And so there are 4 Ogas, and the Ogas are identical to the Asavas, which we translate as the taints or the effluents. So we have Kam Oga, so we have the flood of sensual desires, and we have Bhav Oga, which is the flood of existence. We have Dittoga, the flood of views, and Avidyoga, the flood of ignorance. And so these floods wash beings away, and they sort of suck them down and put them in the whirlpool of samsara. And so the Ālavaka uses 2 words here, Oga and Annava. So one is flood and one is sea. And then the commentary interprets them as being similar in meaning. And interestingly enough, the commentary interprets the answers. The Buddha is giving 4 qualities for overcoming the difficulties that Ālavaka mentions. And each one is related to one of the 4 paths of fruition. So stream entry, once returner, non-returner, and arahant. So let's hear the verses. Katang sudarati yogam, katang sudarati annavam, katang sudukam aceti, katang suparisunjati. How does one cross over the flood? How does one cross over the sea? How does one overcome suffering? How does one become purified? So all of the questions are related to, in the spiritual sense, how we get to overcome all suffering, reach nirvana. And the answer, Sandhaya tarati yogam appamadhena annavam viryena dukkam aceti panyaya parisunjati. Okay, so the first one, remember Saddha, we translate it as faith or confidence. And then here we have Saddhaya. Now, for those of you who are following our little Pāli, introduction to Pāli class, we had the instrumental case. So by me, so Saddha would be a feminine noun. So Saddhaya, by means of faith. Okay, so if you remember, one of the things that disappears from a stream entry is skeptical doubt. Okay, so the first answer is related to stream entry. Through faith, one crosses the flood, Saddhaya tarati ogam. And then the second one, appamadena annavam. So through industriousness or heedfulness, we say, through heedfulness. So appamada is heedful, and then Appamadena, through heedfulness, one crosses the sea. And so then this is related to the weakening of the defilements in the Sakkaragami stage, the once returner stage. Viryena dukkhaṃ accheti, through energy one overcomes suffering. And so then this is related to, by the commentary, related to the Anagami stage. So putting in effort, one overcomes the suffering of the realms other than the Brahma realms. Because a non-returner can still be reborn in one of the Brahma realms. And panyaya parisujjati, so one is purified through wisdom. So wisdom is not fully developed until the stage of arahantship. Now, actually, it would take some explanation. We have to go into the Samyojanas. There's a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya that deals with the different qualities that have to be developed to reach these stages. But just for understanding the sutta, we'll leave it at that for now. Now, the next set of questions starts to mix the spiritual and then the everyday life. So, Kataṃ sulabhate panyam, kataṃ suvindate dhanam, kataṃ sukittim pappoti, kataṃ mittani ghanhati, asma loka param lokam, kataṃ pecchana sochati. How is it one gains true wisdom? How is it one finds true wealth? How does one acquire good repute? How does one bind friends to oneself? How, after passing from this world to the next, does one not grieve? And we'll get the Buddha's answers. Sadhano arahatam dhammam nibbānapātiyā susu labhate panyam appamato vichakano patirupakari durva uttata vindate dhanam Sacchena ketting pappoti nadam mittani gantati Yassete chataro dhamma sandassakarame sino Satchang dit dhammo ditiya jago save pecchana sochati Asma loka parang lokang evam pecchana sochati. Confident in the worthy one's dhamma, taught for attaining nibbana, one gains wisdom through wanting to hear it, heedfulness, and application. Okay, so if you want to gain wisdom, then you have to hear the Dhamma, right? You have to ponder over it, and you have to try to apply it. So straightforward enough. Doing what is suitable, bearing up, aroused, one finds true wealth. Through truth, one acquires good repute. Through giving, one binds friends to oneself. And remember, giving was here it says chaga, which is related to dana, one of these sanghahavatu, of which Hatthālavaka was foremost. That confident householder who has these four things: truth, dhamma, courage, liberality, after passing away, he does not grieve. Thus, after passing from this world to the next world, one does not grieve. So those are our questions and answers, and then we have our challenge from the Buddha to ask any other ascetics. So, inganye pipucchasu putusamanam brahmane yarisacha dhammacha kantya biyo navijjati. Come now, ask others also, the many ascetics and Brahmins, if there is something more than truth, self-control, liberality, and patience. So that's really the end of the Dhamma lesson from the sutta. Now Ālavaka has been converted, and so he say he doesn't need to ask anybody else. He's heard, he's got a good answer, he's satisfied with his answer, and then he will go for refuge to the Buddha as his teacher until the end of his life. And so there's what we call a pericope, or a standard phrase that talks about just like someone lighting a lamp in the darkness, or turning right side up what had been flipped upside down, these kinds of things. So we'll just chant it quickly in Pāli. Sohang Ajapajanami Vatto Samparayiko Ataya Vatame Buddho Vasaya Lavimagami Sohang Ajapajanami Yattadinnam Mahapalam Sohang Vicharisami Gama Gamam Paraparam Namasamano Sambuddham Dhamma Sacha Siddhammatanti Evam Vadva Ālavako Yaku Bhagavandam Yadavocha Abhikantam Bhogotama Abhikantam Bhogotama Sayatapi Bhogotama Nikujjitam Va Ukujjaya Paticcannam Va Vivareya Mulhasavamagang Achikkeya Andhakare Va Telapanchotam Dhareya Chakkumanto Rupani Dakinti Evam evam bhota gotamena aneka pariyayena dhammo pakasito esaham bhavantam gotamam saranam gacchami dhamman ca bhikkhu sangham ca upasakam mam bhavam gotamo dharetu ajitavye panapetam saranam gatanti. So, as I said, this is more of an explanation for those who are chanting. This is part of the daily chanting practice. And it's important when we do our chanting to have a goal in mind of what we're trying to do. So some people are happy enough to just choose some protective chants, and then light a candle and use this time just to develop a connection with the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. But some people feel they need to understand a little more about the chanting. And so for those people, it's good if you can go through the meaning ahead of time. You don't have to know every Pāli word. It's not that easy to learn the Pāli language, but you can go through the Pāli with the English translation, and you can get the main Dhamma points of it. So as we did today, you can kind of gloss over the first part. Okay, Ālavaka is challenging the Buddha, and then the Buddha is going out and coming in. You can know what's happening. But when it comes to the Dhamma explanation, it's good if you know the key points there in a little more detail. And then again at the end, if you just understand the situation, Ālavaka has gained faith in the Buddha. He promises to go around the country praising the Buddha and to give up his evil ways, these sorts of things. And so if you can do that with each of the chants, then at the same time that you're doing the chanting, then you're recollecting some Dhamma, and hopefully it will start to come into your life in two ways: the happiness from the chanting, and also the recollection of the Dhamma that you've been reciting aloud. So I hope that this little talk has been helpful for that, and so that it may support your Dhamma practice, your chanting practice, and that it will help you to be happy, healthy, peaceful, and content, and swiftly attain the peace of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.